Okay, hello everyone. I'm Tom Nallen, Tom Nallen 2 actually. My father is Tom Nallen 1, and he's done a lot of designs over the years, rubber powered scale and sport. But I'm Tom Nallen 2, and we're in my backyard in Westford, Mass. It's October 5, 2014, and we're going to carve a prop actually for my 48-inch Martin Westwind giant scale free flight model, rubber powered model. And I've cut the block. This is a 14.5-inch long block by 1¼ inches deep. And I marked it using the same layout that I used in my earlier 36-inch cite LD45 biplane. This prop is going to be a little bit larger in diameter, 14 inches in diameter versus 12 inches for that. And what I've done here is I've marked the block, and I'm using a round hub at the center. I've already pre-drilled it with a drill press with a 3/32 inch drill bit, and that's important because you want to drill it while the block is still square before you cut it. That way you get a straight, with the drill press, you get a straight bushing hole in your block before you even begin carving. You cannot drill a centered hole or straight prop shaft hole in your prop after you've carved it. It's very, very difficult to do that. So I marked it. With my jigsaw downstairs, I cut it, and I'm assembling the block so you can see it here. But what I've done is I cut off the sides first. Just pulling them off for you now. And then I cut the front face and the rear face. So now I've got a prop block, blank I should say, which is pretty, which is the starting point for where I want to carve the prop. Now, one thing you want to do here is to mark your prop. At least I always do. Mark it at the end of the blank. You know, if this is a tractor prop, we want to make sure that it is going to turn counterclockwise. So I've marked the prop appropriately, and I marked it on both ends so I don't carve two left-hand blades or two right-hand blades, which I've done it before. So we're ready to actually begin carving this prop. And the way I look at it is you want to be careful and go slow, because this is actually a valuable piece of balsa here. It's cost a few bucks. 14.5 inches long, 1.5 inches wide. It's a valuable piece. I usually start carving from the back face of the propeller first. And let's talk about the knife here. I'm using a number 26 whittling blade in a large aluminum handle X-Acto knife. This is what I like. It fits the hand well, and you can carve and whittle with it. And it's something this size. That's essentially what we're doing, is we're whittling. So I'm going to check my mark here, and I'm going to start from the rear face of the prop. I've marked the front, and I've marked the rear because I don't want to make any mistakes here as I go along, or I want to try not to. So I'm going to lop off this corner right here, and I'm going to start by just drawing away. I'll take a few and just begin and check. This is a quarter-grain piece of balsa, which means that it's pretty substantial. So I want to carve carefully. Number one, so I don't hurt myself. Number two, so that I don't go too far on the blade. But you know, essentially, I'm going to go up in this area here, and I'm going to come down in this area, and that's going to give me the rear face of my blade. So I have a fair amount of work to do. And you know what? I'm going to, at this point, what I like to do is I like to often get my prop a little difficult to carve here. Blade could be sharper. It's an old blade. Passed it on my emery stone a couple of times before we started here, but you know, it's probably could be sharper. Okay, that's the rear face of that blade. Now I'm going to carve the front face just to kind of mark it and get this thing moving. You can tell the balsa is carving a little easier here on the top side. That's interesting. Now I just took a little bit of a deep bite there with my blade. I backed off because I don't want to get carried away with a long run. It's gonna ruin my prop here, so I need to be careful. Notice how this is quarter grained wood on the inside. See, now I'll go back and I'll come at that again. I'll get closer. Very kind of controlled drop to the carve. Nice quarter grained piece of balsa. You know, it's feeling a little softer up on the top here, but that's okay. You know, a prop this size, I may choose to actually fiberglass it or cover it with silk span. I'll definitely cover the tips with silk span. But we're just getting, there's some nice sheets of balsa coming off there. Okay, so I'm beginning to shape that end of the blade. The top side's coming off a whole lot easier than the back. Now I'm going to go over to the other side, and this is important. I want to make sure I don't carve, the first thing is I want to make sure I don't carve the same blade on both sides of the propeller. Okay, so I've got it marked here and I'm using that as a reference. That's important. Now again, I'm going to go back. Actually, on this one here, I'm going to carve the front side because I can see the other front as a reference, so I know it's this side, and I'm checking my mark. I'm checking it a couple of times because if you screw up here and you carve the wrong side, you're done, and the block is worthless for what you want to accomplish. You know, you can probably use it as fill in other places, but it's worthless as a prop unless you get the starting cuts here correct. Again, I'm back into harder part of the wood here. This is, you know, interesting. So I don't usually cut this way back towards the hub, but I'm going to here just, being careful. It's important. So I'm learning something here in this early, and my objective is not to finish this propeller in one fell swoop here. We're gonna just get it roughed out. Okay, and then I'm going to put this thing aside. I'm going to go do some work around the house, and I'll come back at it. And that's often how, for me, these kind of carving things work. They don't happen all in one fell swoop. You can see them beginning to get the front faces of the propellers. It looks good. Now I'm going to go to the rear face here. Back to my softer quarter grained wood. Double check, I'm cutting on the right side. That's always good to know. Cutting off some large, this is nice. It's a nice block. It's a nice block, and you can see this long blade is important because it gives you that nice long cut. Boy, I really got going there, and that's nice. I'm going to cut carefully back towards the hub. You see why I said carefully. In fact, I think I'm going to stop doing that now. Come back here. Very dangerous cutting back towards the hub. So something you probably, you'll do it, but you want to be very careful. One, for yourself, and two, because you could easily ruin your block. And you don't want to ruin the block. So there we go. You know, we're beginning to already get to the point where we've got a blade, a prop that's beginning to take shape. Okay, so from here, once you're past those important early steps of marking your block, cutting your block, beginning the carve. Now I'm back to those nice sheets of balsa coming off. Again, you got to be careful as I approach these corners here. What I usually do is I will stop short. As I get to the upper edge and the lower edge down here, I will stop short, proceed with caution. Apologize for the motorcycle in the background. It's a wonderful day for a ride. I'm going a little deeper on the trailing edge of this blade here now. The prop blade, that is. Careful. As you get closer, you use care. I'm going to go to within probably, I'm going to stop soon for now. Let this sit. I'm going to come back, flatten out the top of that blade a little bit. There. We're getting close on that blade, on the top side anyway. Now I'm going to go back to this one here. So oops, that's a deep cut. I need to be careful. So important to know when you need to be careful. And there's no harm ever done in backing the blade out. So I'm going to kind of come at it like this. This balsa carves easily on the top face. Very nice. Very nice. I'm going to take that down a little bit. I'm to the point now where I want to be careful. I want to be careful. And now, this is what I don't usually do. I'm going to combat it back from towards the hub. But you see what I'm doing now is I'm using a different carving technique. Short, controlled strokes, not the freehand strokes that I was using the other way. Now I'm actually using my thumb as a backstop, which is a very common, when you're carving smaller props, that's what you actually do, is you use your thumb as a backdrop. And when I get deeper into this prop, I will do that too. I'm getting very close to roughing out the two faces on my 14.5-inch prop. Boy, that's going to be a big prop, and that's going to take a few strands of FAI to turn that one. Now, I'm moving right along. I'm going to go back to this one here. Okay. And just slow and steady. Slow and steady. The wood back here is a little bit firmer. Slow and steady. Careful. You take a deep bite with your knife. Be careful. Getting quite the pile of balsa chips here now. And this is hard wood back here. So you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to pause here. And I'm going to stop the video. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to sharpen my blade some. I'm going to get that stone back out. Although it's going very nicely now. Okay, now I be careful. I'm getting up to the top of the block again. Caution. So remember, when you're carving, this is not, you want to think about what you're doing. Feel the wood. It's one of the pleasures of what we do is you know, it's a very tactile thing. So you feel the wood. I'm kind of carving towards me in more measured strokes. I'll do this, as I said, I'll do this more as we finish the prop. And I am almost ready to pause. My neighbor's cutting his lawn. And that's where I'm going to stop, because I've got a pretty good pile of balsa wood. I'm pleased that I have my Propeller. This is balsa wood. Actually well underway. I'll put my knife down. So you remember that we started with a block. It was 14 inches 14.5 inches actually in diameter by about 1.25 inches deep. And the first thing I did was to cut the block using my jigsaw. And then I marked, this is important, I marked the end for my tractor propeller so that when turning counterclockwise, it's actually biting the air and it's functioning as a propeller. Boy, that's going to be, I tend to like large diameter and high and low pitch propellers, and that's you can probably tell for those of you that are free flighters, built carved props before. You can tell this is a fairly low pitch prop, but I like that. You know, my airplane is 48 inches in wingspan. It's about 5 ounces in weight, so it's fairly light. It's going to take about 4 loops of 3/16, maybe a little bit more to drive this, probably more. But I'm anxious to try it out. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and hope this has helped.